Okay, so I am going to go ahead and mute you guys if I can find out how to do that. Yeah, I got to go back to the conference calls tools. Hold on 1 second. Sorry, guys. Mute all.
The conference has been muted.
Share screen. All right, now I'm really going to start. So anyway, number third step. This is the first call. And so we've had the CFQ call, we've had the model review call. You guys have blown up the islands and hopefully had a lot of fun doing that. Today we're going to talk about transfers of assets. We're going to talk about the C.A.R.E program. We need to go back and review the tax savings ideas. We're going to talk about life insurance today, long-term care, and we're going to discuss estate planning needs. So this is definitely the meeting where we're going to get paid. We're going to start the process of getting money. But the client honestly shouldn't have any idea that this is our meeting where we're getting paid. They should just see it as another step in the process. And we're going to be consulting and educating and talking about all these different ideas to set them up for the last meeting. And the last meeting is going to involve actually paying for the life insurance and delivering the trust and some of those other things. But this meeting is really, really important. Now, this meeting could easily take one meeting. One 1-hour meeting or one 45-minute meeting, or it could be two. So it kind of depends upon how long the insurance underwriting is going to take. If you need to go back and talk to them about that some more. If you are moving a bunch of money around of a lot of different accounts, you could easily have a meeting where you just fill out paperwork and go over the disclosures and stuff like that. I really want to start the C.A.R.E proposal because I know that's going to take a couple weeks if we're going to do the trust documents and things like that. And of course, we are not going to do any life insurance illustrations. Okay, we are going to be talking concepts and ideas. We still want them knowing that we're going to be talking about life insurance, but we don't want the life insurance, and this is a really important piece here, guys. We don't want the life insurance to distract them from giving us all of their other money. Right? So whether we're investing the money in annuities or AUM or wherever it is, if we all of a sudden they start getting hung up on the life insurance, I honestly believe that's where a lot of people make a huge mistake. So we're going to make them a client, and they're going to have or entrust us with a bunch of their assets. By the time the life insurance comes around in the next meeting, I really think and believe that they should be sold and they should already have the money in hand to put into the insurance. Right? We don't need to show them an illustration to explain to them that we're going to be tax sheltering money. We don't need to show them an illustration to explain to them that we're going to be creating a better estate plan for their kids and grandkids. We don't need to show them an illustration to sell those concepts or ideas at all. Right? So today is a concept and strategy meeting. It's not an illustration meeting. And as you guys probably know, I rarely ever even give illustrations out until the very end when I'm delivering. Right? Or when I'm ordering a policy, if I say to them, okay, this is what we're going to order, I may give them an illustration and they can take it home and look at it, but very seldom is the illustration any part of the true sales process. All right? So don't overcomplicate things and start printing out a bunch of scenarios and giving them to clients, and certainly don't promise them that they're going to be able to get a certain rate or anything like that at all. Okay, and I don't differentiate. The other thing I'll tell you is when the insurance gets approved, I'm not going to differentiate between a standard, a preferred, or whatever. I don't typically go to them and say, oh, well, unless they're really healthy, they can say, oh my gosh, you're really healthy. But I wouldn't tell somebody, oh, you're standard and you could have done two better. You could have gotten preferred or super preferred. I don't want them feeling like that at all. Right? So it's all just going to be a general discussion. All right. So today, transfer paperwork, C.A.R.E program, tax strategies, life insurance, estate plan. Okay? So let's go ahead. And I pulled up I've got a different model today just so you can see. I know we've been kind of following the same model through, but since we've blown up the islands already, we've gone over fees. We've gone over, we've gone over the fact that 90% of the time their advisor has talked to them pretty much exclusively about performance, and performance is one of those things we don't control. So we're going to talk a little bit more about strategy. We don't need to go into the statements anymore. Hopefully they're sold. We might use our calculators, but in any case, let's just go ahead and jump right into this model that I prepared for you. Actual client of mine right now, And so a client who is just at retirement now, and you'll notice I push back projected retirement age to 72, not because they're going to retire at 72, but because of the Secure Act. And in their mind, they're thinking, oh, the Secure Act, I don't have to take my RMDs out until 72, even though that's a massive mistake. I just put it to age 72 so you could show a little bit of growth on their money, right? So these guys are going to be retiring this year. Perfect age because they wanted. In fact, they have a really great idea, right? They're retiring because he's maxing out his social, and she's going to be at her full social age. So we have one max and one full. And for Social Security purposes, that's probably ideal for like 90% of the people. If we can get the higher or one of the wage income earners, in this case it's the male, to draw at age 70, and the other one at 66, then that's fantastic, right? Their total income, they both make around six figures. Their total income is a little over 200,000. All they have right now is basic life insurance through work. They do have some long-term care through John Hancock. We're getting them underwritten because we're going to be looking at a combo plan that is going to combine life insurance and long-term care and tax-sheltered cash, right? I don't need to replace this long-term care. Right? Very seldom are we going to be replacing long-term care that's already in process, in existence that they already have. Right? If they want to cancel it down the road, that's up to them. But typically, what we're going to tell them is, hey, this may be okay, but the premiums are not controlled here, as you have seen. They've already seen multiple increases in premiums. So this John Hancock policies, we don't know how much they're going to cost down the road. But what we do know is our clients cannot be forced to pay more for long-term care. So when they get a notice that says your premiums are going up, they can disregard those premiums and just pay the same premiums. Their benefits will get reduced, but they cannot be forced to pay more money. That's typically what we recommend. All right, they're going to not pay any more, and their benefits over time may reduce, but it's fine because we're going to get them a supplement or a complement to their existing long-term care insurance that will not go up in costs. And in fact, it might actually not cost them anything. We're going to get them a complement or a supplement that's not going to cost them anything out of pocket at all. All right. If you haven't had a chance to listen to the first 4 recordings, I would go back and listen to the first 4 because some of these ideas, I'm going to go through quickly because we've already done them. All right. Similar to most people, they're maxing out their retirement accounts. They've got a little bit of a match here, so they're each getting, approaching the $700,000, $800,000, $900,000 mark. Their retirement accounts feel like they're doing a great job. We know they're not. We know they're going to get crushed on taxes. We also know the C.A.R.E Act now is also not going to allow their kids to stretch these things. In fact, they couldn't anyway because this is a pension plan. So this can go to the spouse, but the kids could not have inherited TSPs. Right? Kids cannot inherit TSPs. They got to take a taxable distribution on all of it. But the C.A.R.E Act is going to ruin it for the 401ks and for IRAs as well. So that's all good. The real summary that I want to get back to this client about right now is looking at their pension income, looking at their Social Security income, and understanding their taxes are not going to be going down. Right? So in fact, their gross income is $224. Their tax return is not showing me $224. Right? I know their tax return is probably showing me $1.50. Hopefully you guys can see why. And if you can't, 24 of this is standard deduction. Right? So their taxable income goes down to $200, and they're deferring $50. So this $224, they're probably only paying taxes on $150. Right? Well, when they get into retirement, they're no longer in deferral. They've got distribution from retirement accounts. They've got their pensions, which are all taxable, and Social Security, which is 85% taxable. So of this $226, the majority of it is going to be taxable. Right? And you show them these things, and this model is designed so that kind of jumps out at them, and you explain to them the deferral and the automatic deduction, and then we'll pull up the tax code, right? 226, married, filing jointly. Yeah, they're probably going to get bumped up into the next tax bracket. They're at 150 taxable income right now. There's probably no way for us to avoid for them to go up into the next tax bracket. So if this next tax bracket is 24%, when the short-term tax reduction sunsets and these tax rates go back up, 100% for sure they're going to be paying higher taxes. So why are you deferring at 24 just to pull money out at 28 or 26 or 30 or whatever it ends up being long term, right? So got to go back to the tax tables always to reiterate for these guys what the deal is. Low tax bracket now, and then of course, what's the likelihood you'll ever make less than $77,000? Not possible. Right? You're not going to go into a lower tax bracket, but you might go into a higher one or very likely is you'll go into a higher one. Okay? So we have introduced them to the potential CRUT idea, and there's two opportunities for the CRUT. So today I'm going to show them two different scenarios, right? But the amounts of money are similar, right? I'm going to show them a rental property. So they've got mutual funds and stocks, and they've got rental property. These are all their non-qualified or non-retirement account assets, right? And I've introduced them to the idea of the CRUT, but I'm going to go in and I'm going to say, look, this is a great time to divest because the market has done so well, but I know this is a taxable event if you want to reposition any of these assets. Lock in some of your gains so that you can guarantee you can keep some of your profit now. Same thing with the rental property, right? You've been using this rental for years, and now it's time to retire, and you may want to get out of it. You may not want to be a landlord anymore, and that's a very common thing. 70-year-olds typically don't want a 1031 exchange anymore. It's kind of a silly thing to do anyway. If anybody's thinking 1031 exchange right now, because the capital gains taxes are so low, they're either 20%, 15%, or 0, depending upon the tax bracket. It's a very, very favorable time to not do an exchange. Capital gains taxes are likely to go back up to 28% or higher, right? So what the exchange just does is, again, just defers your money so you can pay a higher tax later on. But if we can throw this into a CRUT, we can avoid the capital gains tax event when we sell the rental property. We can also avoid the capital gains tax event on some of these other investments, right? So let's say they've got 300 to 350 in general that we think might be suitable for the charitable trust idea. This is now the time to get them to do it, right? We've underwritten the insurances in process. I think these guys are okay with us taking the money. We've talked to them about sequence of return on the calculator. We're talking about cashing in some of their gains, locking it in, making sure that they have a more conservative long-term approach for income because they're going to need to take income. Right? They still got a little money in savings and CDs. I like this CD money. You can put this in the CRUT both now or into the future. But I really want to position this CRUT as a tool. This isn't the end-all be-all, but it's going to be a tool. So I'm going to go right on to the internet, right? And I'm going to pop into the charitable trust calculator, which you guys all know and love, hopefully. I'm going to say to them, okay, now is the time to cash in on these stocks, right? $372,000 worth of Ameritrade stocks that you've got gains in. If you were to sell these stocks on your own, you would have to pay capital gains taxes, right? And we're going to try to avoid those taxes for you, if that's okay. The rental property, it's about $350. We could plop the rental property here, and you would avoid the capital gains tax event on that rental property. There's a decent chance they've depreciated that house plus made money. They would have to pay capital gains on hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not almost the whole thing, right? So either the stocks or the house. I'm going to plop in here. Let's just use the stocks for now, and let's do the gift date today. The way I like to explain the payment rate is, one of the rules in these charitable trusts is you have to take out a minimum of 5%. You can take up as much as 10% a year, but you got to start with at least 5. So let's go ahead and use the minimum 5, and that minimum 5 is going to give us the greatest tax benefit. Client is 70 years old. Boom, boom. And here's the nice thing about this: when you'll see here that $372,000 gives us $18,600 worth of income, which is 5%. And then here's the charitable deduction. So don't forget, we didn't just avoid the capital gains tax, right? We also created a deduction of $194,000. And of course, I'll typically ask the client, if I could give you a tax deduction on the $194,000, how would that sound to you? And then I'll usually ask them, where would you like to use that? So we would like to do some Roth conversions. We would like to just lower the income tax. Whatever it is they want to do, they can do. And here's the nice thing. In the future, if they want to do more money into the trust, they got plenty of other assets they can throw in there. These other investments, as they grow with MetLife and TIAA, they've got this other rental property. They've got some CDs. So I always tell people, we're going to start off with one of these charitable trusts, but in the future, if you want to put more money into them, there's no minimum and there's no maximum. We can really use this as a tool to reduce taxes whenever we want. And so getting them familiar with that idea that, hey, it's not just like people think of their brains, they think these trusts, everything's set in stone, can't change it, very complicated. Quite the opposite. Very, very flexible. No real rules or regulations other than the requirement to take income out and the requirement to leave 10% to charity, right? Everything else is sort of our design, which we can sort of personalize for this client to give them maximum benefit, right? But they may, and more than likely, they will want to put more money into this thing. Okay, so I've got this charitable trust calculator, and we figure that we've got a pretty large deduction here. We can go right after their IRAs and start converting to Roth, which I'd really like to do. We can also start taking money out of their IRAs and start funneling money into insurance or for long-term care, which I also like to do. But the stock portfolio that they have with E-Trade or Ameritrade, wherever it is right now, they're not taking income from this thing, right? It's just been sitting there growing, or hopefully growing, right? But it's not been paying them income. When it starts to pay them income, they don't need it. This $18,600, they can use that to take a cruise around the world every year if they want to. They can use it to buy a car. They can use it to whatever they want, but they don't need this money. So I would love to use this money for life insurance, and typically they'll ask, well, what do we do with this money? And I'll say, well, we could actually use this money to protect your estate from taxes so that we could either convert some of this money that's taxable to tax-free inside the insurance, or we could set some money aside to pay any taxes that your kids would have to pay on these TSPs. If you leave your kids $2 million or $1.5 million in a retirement account in a TSP, because of the C.A.R.E Act or because of other things, they're probably going to owe about $600,000, maybe $700,000 in taxes. We can help use the insurance to pay for that if you like, so that they don't have to get burdened with taxes. But here's what I've really been focusing on. So, you might have a $150 a day or a $200 a day long-term care plan. That's not even if you have an inflationary rider, 20 years from now, that's not keeping pace with inflation, right? So I was in a client's home, and it is the only client whose home I go into. I was in my client's home the other day, and he's in a wheelchair. He had a stroke, but he's only in his 70s, right? And he's paying about $400 a day for care. So I'm not even going to make that number the whole number, but let's just say, he's paying over $150,000 a year for care. He's running out of money fast. He wasn't healthy enough to get long-term care back in the day because of diabetes and some other stuff, right? But long-term care costs aren't escalating by the same rate as inflation and everything else. It's actually more. It's probably closer to 7 or 8%. I'm just going to use 6 because I don't want to freak people out too much. But by the time this client's 90 in 20 years, $120,000 worth of care costs are going to jump to $384,000. Now, do they have enough money to pay for it? Yeah. But why would they want to withdraw $500,000 a year, pay taxes to pay for care, if we can leverage our assets and have our assets pay for it without any money out of pocket? They don't even know it's possible yet. But we're kind of heading down the road of allowing our assets to leverage through insurance to pay for this care tax-free, right? And of course, the type of insurance that we do is going to have a death benefit, so that if you die and you don't need the long-term care coverage, unlike John Hancock, where if you don't use the coverage, you've lost all your money, right? We're going to look for a plan, because I think you're young enough and healthy enough to get it now, where if you don't ever use the money and the long-term care is never utilized, your kids or your spouse will get all the money back you put in plus interest in the form of a tax-free death benefit. Right, so we're going to leverage the insurance for additional long-term care benefit, maybe some tax-free cash, but certainly against this CRUT. All right, so we did the CRUT calculator. Now I'm going to pull up the CRUT proposal. And I'm going to send them home with this CRUT proposal today. All right, and the CRUT proposal is going to be, where did I put it? It's right here, charitable trust. And the CRUT proposal looks like this. You guys have seen it before. I'm going to print it off. I'm going to put their name on it. Right, JJ and JG. I'm going to edit this. I'm going to just go over a brief summary, and I'm going to put in the numbers here. I'm going to say, okay, we put in $372,000. Income to donor $18,600. Potential tax deduction, $194,000. That would take about 10 seconds. This is our proposal process, right? That's it. We just plug these numbers in and we send them home. Right? There's disclosures in here, and we say, look, to get this trust started, you only need to pay $1,800, right? And you're going to pay the $1,800 to our attorney. You're going to send it directly to him, and he'll get started drafting. But before you send him the money, and before he starts drafting, let me know which charities are you interested in putting on your C.A.R.E profile. And if they start naming the Humane Society, or if they start naming their church, or if they start naming the American Red Cross or diabetes research, whatever they start naming, when you put it in on here for them, we're going to fill this out for him, turn it in. As soon as they've selected the charities, that is when the sale is made. The clients have no idea. But 100% of the time, if they fill this out and we put the charities on here, they've already in their mind that this is already a done deal. They're okay with the $1,800. They'll send the check in. We get it start drafting. The charities now they're thinking about, okay, this is great. I can leave some money to charity. And that's basically it. We have a tax return. We're going to fill out all this stuff for them. Okay? So the C.A.R.E idea is just moving them through the process. They don't have to understand everything, right? I'm not trying to make sure they can teach a class on C.A.R.Es. That's not my goal. My goal is to progress them forward and get them moving along. All right, so here's the deal. We send them home. They're going to send a check in. They've already picked their charity. This appointment is done. We've done everything that we wanted to do to really excel this case forward. All right, so hopefully the money's in process. We can do the C.A.R.E and then put the money in after the C.A.R.E is done to avoid the taxes. These IRA, TSP, 401k, whatever houses are, these are getting rolled over. So this third appointment is done. So that was basically, all right, so the paperwork is getting started for the IRAs. We'll go through that with them. We just did the C.A.R.E program. We reviewed their tax brackets to remind them what's going to be happening, right? We talked about and reminded them about the life insurance concept and talked to them about what's going to happen if we didn't do this, what their estate would look like, and now how we're going to be able to protect their assets for their kids and spouse. That's a great meeting, right? We've progressed them a lot. This meeting is easily going to be an hour long, especially with the paperwork, right? And then it sets them up for the last meeting, which is going to then be talking about finalizing. Let me see if I can do this. Finalizing, yep. I want to go backwards now, sorry. I skipped it. Finalizing the last meeting is going to be collecting money for the insurance, finalizing rollovers, delivering policies, doing the trusts, and all that kind of stuff. Okay, so step 3, that's basically the entire meeting. And it's a very fun meeting. They're engaged. They obviously are going to become clients of ours, but they don't know in that first, second, third, fourth meeting, they don't realize that there's a trigger that happened that caused them to become a client of yours. They just see it as a progression of everything. So it's usually a very, very favorable process for them. They have questions. You can answer for them. We're not pushing to try to sell them or to close something. The process is closing it for us. So it's not like a commitment, hey, how much can you commit right now? It's not a yes or no, do you want to do this or not? It's not an end, it's not sort of an all or nothing type of planning. This is just another step in our process. Another progression with the trust, finalizing the insurance approvals, talking about the concepts of the tax savings, and so on and so forth. If they don't do the charitable trust now, it's totally fine. Right, but I'm still going to spend the time to educate them about it and to go over it. And they may say to me, "Hey, you know what? Maybe I'll do this later when the taxes go up or whatever it ends up being." All right. So that is the third meeting. I'm going to do a second call and record it again to do this a different way, looking at a different scenario in the third meeting. We'll talk probably a little bit more about the estate planning and what happens if you don't do it properly and you don't have long-term care, and how quickly your account can erode with taxes and other things like that. But I think this is a pretty bread and butter type of deal for us, and we don't really give the client a chance to say yes or no. We're not asking any yes or no questions. All right, we're just kind of progressing them forward. They're feeling good about it. If they need to take another meeting to think about it, that's fine. But there's going to be 3 weeks in between these meetings, 3 to 4 weeks in between meetings. So they got plenty of time to think it over. And they can bring their questions back with them next time. All right. So thank you guys very much for this attendance. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording. If you have any quick questions, I'll let you guys chime in.